It started with a phone call, a trembling voice, a panicked tone, and the words no one ever wants to hear. There's been an accident. And just like that, Kim Go-eun's world shattered. You're watching a story that will break your heart and restore your faith in love all in the same breath. Before we dive into the emotions, the heartbreak, and the quiet strength that held it all together, make sure to subscribe and tap the notification bell. This is a story you don't want to miss. Now let's begin. The day had started like any other. Kim Go-eun had just wrapped filming for a commercial shoot, laughing with her team, sipping on coffee, and texting updates to someone who'd grown incredibly dear to her, Lee Min-ho. They had been closer than ever, constantly in touch despite their busy schedules. Though they hadn't publicly confirmed their relationship, everyone around them could feel it. The glances, the subtle touches, the way their names lit up each other's phones. It was real. But by late afternoon, everything changed. She received a call from Min-ho's manager. There'd been a car accident, not just a fender bender, a serious one, and Min-ho was being rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. Kim Go-eun dropped everything. Her phone, her bag. She didn't care. She just ran. Racing to the hospital, she ignored the flashing cameras, ignored her team yelling for her to stop. Her heart was in her throat, her breath shallow, and her mind racing with the one terrifying question. What if I'm too late? By the time she reached the hospital, Lee Min-ho was already in the emergency ward, hooked to monitors, pale, bruised. Still, doctors surrounded him, murmuring terms she didn't understand. But all she saw was his face, too quiet, too still. The nurses tried to pull her away, but she pushed forward. She had to see him. And then, as if he knew she was near, Lee Min-ho opened his eyes. Barely. His hand reached for hers, trembling, weak, but still reaching. She gripped it tightly, tears streaming down her face as she knelt beside him. And with a voice barely louder than a whisper, he said the words that would haunt her forever. "Don't leave me." Kim Go-eun broke. Her breath caught. Her hands shook. She clutched his fingers with both hands and whispered back, "I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I promise." But the surgical team began moving. They had to take him. Time was critical. As they wheeled him away, his hand slowly slipped from hers, and she stood there in the sterile hallway, her entire body numb. He had asked her not to leave, and yet, she was being forced to let go. The next hours were the longest of her life. She sat alone in a quiet corner of the waiting area, still in her makeup from the shoot, hair styled, but mascara running down her cheeks. Her phone buzzed non-stop, messages, missed calls, news alerts, but she ignored them all. Nothing mattered except that operating room door. One of the staff offered her water, another a blanket. She politely declined. All she wanted was to hear he was okay. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, a doctor came out. "His condition is stable," he said. "The surgery was successful, but he's not out of the woods yet. The next 24 hours are critical." She thanked him, bowing deeply, before collapsing back into the chair, this time with tears of relief. She was allowed to see him briefly in the recovery room. There he lay, bandaged, quiet, but breathing. Her heart broke all over again. She walked to his bedside, gently touched his hand, and whispered, "I didn't leave. I kept my promise." It was in that moment that the cameras caught her. Someone from the press had managed to snap a photo through the window. Kim Go-eun, leaning over Lee Min-ho's bed, holding his hand, forehead resting against his. The picture went viral. Headlines exploded. Kim Go-eun rushes to Lee Min-ho's side after near-fatal crash. Last words before surgery. "Don't leave me." Hidden love exposed in the wake of tragedy. Fans everywhere were shaken. They had suspected a romance, but this was real, raw, emotional. As Min-ho recovered, the news cycle didn't stop. Talk shows, fan sites, online forums. Everyone was talking about their unspoken love. But Kim Go-eun didn't care about any of it. She remained by his side. Day after day she visited. She read to him, held his hand through sleepless nights, whispered encouragement into his ear, even when he couldn't respond. And when he finally opened his eyes again, fully alert, she was the first thing he saw. He smiled weakly. "You stayed," he said. "Of course I did," she whispered. "You asked me not to leave, so I didn't." Tears rolled down his face. What followed was quiet, intimate, healing. They spoke in hushed tones, sometimes laughing through the pain, other times crying when the weight of it all became too much. There were no camera crews. No scripts. Just two hearts finally aligned. And yet, even after his discharge, they didn't make any grand announcements. There was no press conference, no social media post, just silence. Until one day, weeks later, Kim Go-eun posted a photo. It was simple. Two hands, interlocked. One had a faint scar from the foreline. The other had her signature ring. No caption, no tags. But everyone knew. It was their way of saying, "We made it through. Together." And then Lee Min-ho followed with a post of his own. A quote, "Some promises are whispered in hospital rooms, but they last forever." Fans wept, because now they knew the truth. Behind every perfect drama scene, behind every red carpet smile, were two people who had truly lived a love story far more powerful than anything scripted. It wasn't always easy. Their careers demanded attention. Their private lives were constantly under scrutiny. But through the chaos, they had found something rare: devotion, loyalty, unshakable love. And in the darkest moment, when Lee Min-ho didn't know if he'd wake up again, it wasn't the spotlight he called for. It was her. Those 3 words, "Don't leave me," weren't just a plea. They were a confession, a lifetime of feelings wrapped into one fragile breath. And when Kim Go-eun heard them, her heart knew what to do. She stayed. She didn't leave. And now, together, they're stronger than ever. Fans have continued to share their story, creating edits, writing letters, and lighting up comment sections with love and support. This wasn't just another celebrity rumor. This was proof that even in a world obsessed with perfection, true love finds its way. So the next time you see Lee Min-ho flash that signature smile, or watch Kim Go-eun light up the screen, remember the night everything almost ended, and how love brought it all back. Because sometimes it only takes 3 words to change everything. Don't leave me. And she never did. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe for more emotional journeys like this one. We'll keep bringing you the stories behind the headlines, and sometimes behind the silence. Thank you for watching. As Lee Min-ho's recovery progressed, the world kept watching. But instead of stepping away from the spotlight, both he and Kim Go-eun leaned into something deeper. Healing, not just of the body, but of the heart. Go-eun's visits continued daily, and soon, hospital staff began sharing quiet admiration. They'd never seen such loyalty from someone in the public eye. No demands, no drama. She helped with his meals, laughed with the nurses, and even brought in books they had read together while filming The King. Behind closed doors, their bond deepened. What had started as a quiet, respectful friendship had bloomed into a fierce, unshakable love. She had seen him at his weakest, and he, now awake and aware, could finally see her strength for what it truly was. Not just romantic, but fierce, gentle, and constant. One evening, as the sunset poured golden light into his hospital room, Lee Min-ho turned to her and asked softly, "Why didn't you leave, even when everyone else told you to take a break?" Go-eun didn't answer immediately. She just smiled, brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, and whispered, "Because if the roles were reversed, you'd do the same." He nodded, and that's when something shifted. Not just between them, but in him. Until now, his healing had been physical. But at that moment, he realized she had healed something deeper. Something scarred by fame, past heartbreaks, and the pressure to be perfect. "You saved me," he said. And this time, it wasn't a metaphor. Because the night of the crash, the doctors weren't sure he'd survive. His injuries were serious, and they admitted later that his heart rate had stabilized only after she arrived. Whether it was coincidence or love's strange power, no one could deny the impact she had made. After being discharged, Min-ho retreated to a private villa in Jeju Island to recover further. And Go-eun, she went with him. For the first time, they weren't actors hiding behind roles. They were simply two people, away from the flashing lights, away from the eyes of the world. Local shopkeepers noticed them, buying groceries, walking along the coast, laughing under the stars. But out of respect, no one leaked photos. They were just a man and a woman, in love, surviving something no camera could fully capture. And then came the moment that confirmed everything. A fan caught sight of them in a quiet Jeju cafe. Not hiding, not rushing away, just sitting side by side, fingers entwined on the table, smiling like nothing else in the world mattered. The fan didn't post the photo out of respect, but they did write a message that quickly went viral. "I saw them today. Not Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun, the stars."